Hello everyone, and thanks for joining today's webinar on Embedded BI. I'm Troy Marchand, CEO of Dundas Data Visualization. The goal of this webinar is to give you a high-level overview of Embedded BI and how to approach such a project to ensure that it delivers solid return on investment. Therefore, this webinar is more or less product neutral since we'll not be going into the details of how to implement software today. However, we will have a follow-up webinar on December 2nd with Jeff Hainsworth, one of our senior solution architects, and he'll be going over how to implement embedded solutions with Dundas BI. So for those that are interested, we will have details on that at the end of this webinar. So let's get started. We're going to start with the whys and the whats, and then we're going to move into all the things to consider when embedding BI, and then your different options that you have. So all the information kind of builds on each other to really help you get a good grasp of the things to think about when approaching a project like this. So why take an embedded approach to BI? Well, it's one of the easier ways to help get more people within an organization using BI and adopting BI. So using BI as a standalone product where it's just a function that's only a small group of people use or other people use from time to time really doesn't get people to focus on using BI as part of their daily routine. So if you really want to try to get more people across an organization to start using BI and you want to improve the adoption rate of BI as a whole, then embedded BI is the way to go. The other part is it really helps keep people focused and informed about what's going on. Again, if BI is not part of that daily routine, then everyone's busy. People tend to just get focused on what they do day to day. They tend to get into these habits of just going through their job. So they tend not to go outside of those things. So an embedded BI helps, again, bring this BI to the forefront, helps people focus. The other important aspect of it is the ability for people to self-manage. A lot of jobs, a lot of roles, if you go around, people don't really know, am I doing well, am I not doing well, what do I need to do to improve? It's a lot of guessing. I've talked to a lot of people and asked them this question, and generally they don't know unless they have a review with their manager. So it really is, it really leaves a lot of people in the position of guessing. So by embedding BI into that process and the routines, it gives people a little bit more certainty about whether they're performing well or not performing well. It allows them to self-manage a lot better. So those are the main reasons why embedded BI is so powerful for enabling a larger group of people across an organization to take advantage of the knowledge that companies possess within their data and use that to really improve their performance. So what exactly is embedded BI? Well, many people think of it as just integrating BI technologies into a business application such as a CRM, accounting system, ERP, etc., to add reporting and self-serve analytics capabilities. But I really think we have to start a little bit earlier in that thought process, which is really starting with the business process that your target audience, so the department or team of people that are going to be taking advantage of embedded BI use. So if we start with that process, we really have to take a look and see where we can embed BI into it. And then we make the changes to the tools and the applications to be able to support that change in process. So that is a big difference in how you take a look at embedded BI. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you're just putting into a product and it's going to work for you. But you really need to start with the process. It's got to be something that becomes part of their daily routine. So unlike standalone BI applications, embedded BI puts this important information front and center because it is already there. It's not a separate step or a different part of the process or a different tool that I need to launch to be able to see this. So it just works naturally. And that's very important for people, because if you introduce a different step in a process or something additional, sometimes it'll happen, sometimes it won't. So people generally don't use as much. So it really gets people to naturally see these numbers. There's no reason to miss these numbers. And when people see it more often, it becomes more important to them. If it's something that they don't see a difference and they only do it from time to time, they don't see the same value in it as something that is in their face and it's just there throughout the entire process that they work with on a daily basis. There are several things you need to consider when embedding BI to ensure it's successful. And the first, which I feel is the most important, is the intention of the project. So if you're going to embed, why are you embedding? So is it to enable performance, or is it to monitor failure? A lot of managers want to put BI in to projects so that they can better monitor failure, or to point out failure, versus looking at numbers in such a manner that's going to help with the success of people's performance. And I think that is way more valuable than trying to focus on bad performance. Doesn't mean you ignore bad performance, but to get the most out of the people, you don't sit and monitor them. I guarantee if you ask a room full of people, do you want to have metrics in place to help enable your performance, or metrics in place to monitor you? And most people will prefer the enablement. So if you really want adoption, you need to make sure what your intention is there. So sometimes managers will tell people it's there for enablement, but you can tell really quickly if it's there for monitoring purposes. So you really want to start with the people in the process. What's their role, their need, their skill, their routine? So we want to try to figure out how they work today and where we can put BI in place to help them improve their performance. So we don't want to start with the tools. We want to start with the people and the process. Now, we want to break that process down into its components. So sometimes processes can be a little bit large and vague, and maybe there's not a lot of milestones. We want to try to break them into as many milestones as we can. And that gives more opportunities for measurement, for BI to be used, so we can see what's successful, what's not successful, and people can use that to try to figure out what's working for them and what's not working for them. The other thing it allows for is more opportunities to win. If you have a long process where people only feel that they were successful at the end of it, it can be a little bit daunting, especially if, let's say, for example, it's a sale and the sales cycle is 3 months. Well, that's a long time to feel like you've won. But if you can break that into different things, like how many different activities you've done to get to that sale, to turn that into a bunch of wins, because people love to win. And if you can give more people opportunities to win, they're going to want to win more. So there's a side benefit to that, just changing that behavior. Then you try to figure out what tools that these people are commonly using. How do they use them? How often? Sometimes things get embedded into tools that aren't used too often. Therefore, you're not going to see much of a difference. So we want to try to figure out how they work, what they do, because if you make too much of a change in how they work and how they use them, they may not adopt them as readily. And another really important aspect, if you really want people to embrace BI, is you've got to turn BI into a corporate culture. If BI is everywhere, people start using it, they'll look like they're the outsider if they're not embracing BI to make more fact-based decisions. So the last part is we want to make this integration of BI as seamless as possible. We want to make it feel like the way that they currently work. We don't want to introduce something that is a complete change to how their tools work, or a complete change to how their process works. We want to add this in. It's got to feel like it was there from the beginning. We've got to make them feel very comfortable with this. And again, that comfort will get them to adopt more readily. So the more seamless, the more it's tailored to how they work and how they think, the better. So we don't want to put in a self-serve BI system that requires too much thought and training for people that don't have any real knowledge of this. They won't end up using it very often. We don't want to have tools that are underpowered for people that are used to diving in deeper into their data. So really, we're looking to tailor it to the different individuals. So we've got to start by figuring out the process. We've got to figure out what they're doing, what their needs are, so that way people will embrace this a lot better. Some of the other things to consider is having a couple people from the team that you're trying to enable be advocates for the rest of the team. The more that the people are involved, the more they're going to buy in when it gets delivered, because it wasn't someone from the outside saying, here's what you're going to use. Part of it was their team agreeing to these changes. It's very important to get that buy-in at all different levels in order to have the adoption. Now, there are several different ways to embed BI into your business. The most common being embedding it into an existing piece of software or a new piece of software that you're creating for your users. And there's two methods to do this. So there is what I refer to as inside or on the side. So the most common is the on the side one, where let's consider a piece of software that has several tabs for different features, and we add one new tab that will be for our BI or reporting or dashboards, all the different BI functionality you may want there. But it's not within the program and within every screen. It's just used in its own section. This is very common when you see reporting portions to a lot of products. You either look at the main part of your product or you look at your reporting part, where the inside is about integrating those two together. So let's say, for example, a CRM, we go to a client record. We may see analytics about that client right there instead of having to go and run a report for that client. So the idea is, as you're going through and looking at the different parts of your software, using the different features of the software, that the BI is part of those features now instead of something that you run separately. So they both have their benefits. Where inside is kind of your real-time view, where on the side is more for your more thorough reporting. So you may want to run both, one or the other. It depends on how much you want to invest in time. It doesn't matter which way you do it. One of the areas that I find the most valuable as a good starting point, because you have a really good return on the amount of work it takes to put this in place, are wall-mounted displays of dashboards. So it's not interactive, but it is a great way to get people to focus on the numbers you want them to focus on. So it's using a lot of techniques used in marketing for brand awareness. So what we want to do is get the numbers in front of people. And the science behind this is the more often that someone sees something, the more important it becomes to them. So if you focus on 2 or 3 metrics on a large wall-mounted display, those numbers start to mean more to the people looking at them. We want them to be able to walk around the organization, see these numbers all over the place. So in fact, we use these a lot here at Dundas, and they are the most effective way to get people interested and focused on certain numbers. So we do have some embedding within applications, but the wall-mounted displays make the fastest and deepest impact of anything, because it gets people to focus on them. They walk by them, they see them. It becomes a gathering point even within the organization, where you'll see a bunch of people standing around looking at these things, focusing on these things. All the information is there. It's out in the open. People get excited about this. It's a great way to start to change that behavior and get people to look at BI as part of the corporate culture. So you combine that with the tools they're using. It's a great set of tools to be able to get the performance changes that you're looking for. Another area that's very common is a corporate portal or client-facing portals. So if you have a website in place that has a whole bunch of company information, that might be another great spot to have embedded BI, where when people are going there, that they get to see the BI as part of that. So again, we're trying to introduce BI without people specifically going to find and run reports. We want them to be able to just go to other parts of the company, and there is just there. The information is always up. It just becomes part of the natural routine that people have. So the last one is automated distribution. So putting it within programs and applications to actually monitor what's going on. So event-based notifications. So if something happens, notifications get pumped out, or time-based reporting. So every morning you've got your reports to start with. So you combine all these things together, it really produces an environment where BI is embedded throughout the process. You might come in the office in the morning, you have a report waiting for you. You walk by your wall-mounted displays. You sit down, start using your software that has the BI within it. You go to the corporate portal to see what news is going on, and you also have more insight into the company metrics. Something happens with some data within the company, you get a notification about what's going on. So you can combine all these tools together to work in conjunction to really build that BI culture within your organization. And I feel it's very effective to use more than one way of embedding to really drive that home. So when it comes to picking a BI platform to embed, you've got to take a look at a few different key areas to ensure that you will be successful. So the first thing is, was the product or platform designed for standalone or embedded use? Some are designed for both, but many are designed for standalone use, where embedded was not a key part of the design architecture of the product. So it becomes a little bit more limited. Doesn't mean these products are bad. It just means these products were designed as a standalone system. For example, let's take something that everyone uses, Excel. It was really designed as a standalone thing. It's not really a great embeddable product, but it doesn't mean it's not a bad product. I use it all the time. It's a great product, has its uses. But when we're embedding, we want something that was specifically designed to be embedded. Otherwise, we're going to run up against limitations very, very quickly. Security and governance, another very important area. If we want to get the data out to more people across the company, we need to make sure we have good quality security and governance of our data. We don't want wrong data getting into wrong people's hands. We want to make sure you keep your data secure while allowing more people to access it. That means we have to have a model that can group people really easily, allow people into certain areas, prevent people from going to other areas, monitor the usage of the software at the same time. So we want to make sure that you have a good system that covers strong security or flexible security, especially for embedding. Security, a lot of the time we want to use the parent application security system, so you need to be able to integrate the two really well. That's very important. You may want to extend the way that you do your security within your applications. So you need a system that's going to be very flexible in that particular area. Now, the flexibility and customization, as we mentioned before, different people have different roles. Different people have different needs and skill sets. So we need to have a product that allows for a tailored experience, because what one person may consider self-serve BI may be something completely different from how another person looks at self-serve BI. So different roles are going to have completely different needs, the way that they look at it. So for example, someone who works doing sales is going to have a different view of self-serve analytics than a data scientist. One's going to need a lot of fine-grained capability. The other one needs a very managed, directed experience to allow them to get the most out of it without getting overwhelmed. So flexibility, customization, the ability to create completely different experiences to match the needs of different people, highly important. The other thing is ease of use. So again, because we have people in different roles, different capabilities, each person, what they call easy to use is going to be different from the next. So again, it goes back to that tailored experience, but we need to make sure that it's nice, easy to use. It's not going to cause a headache for people. If they find it too hard, it's going to cause two issues. One, they're not going to use it, or two, it's going to drive your IT costs up. So there's a lot of other features you may want to take a look at, but these 4 areas are probably the most important. So I would dive deep into these. The one that's often overlooked is the flexibility and customization to allow for these tailored experiences, because the system was not really designed for embedded use. Many systems out there are great systems, but they're targeted towards data analysts and standalone use, not embedded use. So you really, as I said, you really have to take a look at that. So in summary, we need to start with the people and process, not the tools. A lot of people start with the tools before they consider the people in the process. I've seen this many times. And when they don't start with the people and process, their failure rates go way up. Build with enablement in mind. So this intention makes a big difference on people's adoption of these tools. We're going to spend a lot of time and energy putting this in place. We want to make sure we get a lot out of it. So right mindset, very important. Now, this doesn't apply to just embedded BI, any BI project, but with embedded BI, because of the investment involved, it's very, very important that we don't waste that investment. So we need to select BI tools and software that can adapt to the user's needs. Don't force the users into a box the way another product might work. You've got to make it seamless. If you want people to use this and be excited about using this BI, make sure it's seamless. And then last, but not least, is turn BI into a corporate culture. You're embedding BI is a good size investment. You want to get the most out of it. Turn it into something that's just not a thing people have to do, but something people want to do because it improves their performance. As I mentioned earlier, we will have another webinar on embedded BI, but this one is going to be focused specifically on Dundas BI features and how they work in the embedded scenario. So that is, again, December 2nd at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can sign up online at www.dundas.com/discover/webinars. You can reach that from our homepage under the Discover menu, then webinars as well. This one is going to be a very technical webinar because we are diving into the actual features. We're going to show you how they work. We'll dive into a lot of our APIs as well. This webinar is going to be presented by Jeff Hainsworth, one of our senior solution architects. So please sign up. So that concludes the main part of our webinar, and we're going to move on to our question and answer session. So I'm going to be answering some of the questions that came in during the webinar, and if you have any that you would like to ask, please type them in. If we don't have time, we will be answering those offline, but I'm going to spend the next few minutes answering as many questions as I can. So thanks again for joining us.